Hey guys, good morning. Today we are going to continue our John chapter series. Today our Bible study, chapter 2, verse 12 to 25. Here we can see Jesus Christ's journey and his righteous anger and his prophecy and his ministry. Now we are going to discuss chapter 2, verse 12 to 25. We can prepare some questions. First question, for discussion we can prepare some questions. The first question is, explain a brief history of the Passover. Was this the first time recorded Jesus went to Jerusalem? What happened the first time he went there? Next question, explain a brief history of the temple. And next, what was taking place at the temple? And next we can prepare, why did this make Jesus angry? And can you think of any comparison in today's world? What does this tell us about God's feeling for the holiness of temple or church? And next, what does this tell us about the purpose for going to church? And next question we can prepare, was it sin for Jesus to be angry? And why or why not? And next question we can prepare, how can you explain his actions? Should we get angry? And when is it acceptable to get angry? And next question, what kinds of things should make us angry? And what should we do with our anger? Next question we can prepare, what was this mean that Jesus knew about in verse 24 and 25. So we can prepare a lot of questions from this passage, and related to this passage we can see some statements from different chapters, like the Passover is instituted, Jesus' first recorded trip to Jerusalem for the Passover, Jonah was angry for a bad reason, and God was angry because of someone's iniquity, and be angry yet do not sin. When you look at Ephesians chapter 4 verse 26, zeal for his house consumed him. And Matthew's account of the purification of the temple by Jesus, but it was not separate trips, meaning the Jews went right back to their sinful ways. And must worship in spirit and truth, when you look at John chapter 4 verse 24. Many suppose godliness is a meaning of gain. The one with clean hands, a pure heart, shall receive a blessing from God. Now we are going to discuss one by one here. From verse 12 to 13, Jesus often traveled around, rarely staying in one place very long. This is his second recorded trip to Jerusalem for the Passover. The first took place when he was just a boy. The time Jesus stayed behind when his parents left and spent days talking to debating with the teachers at the temple. At the time he also called it his father's house. Jesus didn't just become God or indwelt by God when he began his public ministry. He was always God. His public ministry is just when he chose to reveal himself to the world as the Messiah. Tell a little about the history of the Passover. This was the first Passover after Christ's baptism. The second is mentioned in Luke chapter 6 verse 1. The third we can see John chapter 6 verse 4. And the fourth, which was that at which he was crucified, John chapter 11 verse 55, from which it appears. And that our first one, that our blessed Lord continued his public ministry about 3 years and a half, according to the prophecy of Daniel chapter 9 verse 27. And the second point, that having been baptized about the beginning of his 30th year, he was crucified precisely in the middle of the 33rd. Now we are going to see verse 14 to 16. When Jesus saw the temple, he found that it was turned into a place of business. People were selling the animals for sacrifice. They had money exchange. Quite simply, the temple had become a center of business and profit. The people who were doing this had selfish motivations. They obviously didn't really care about worshipping God or offering sacrifices to God. They were using God as an excuse to make money. They were doing the exact opposite of what Jesus wanted them to do when he told them to render to God the things that are God and to Caesar the things that are Caesar's. They were bringing God down to a low and base level. They should have been going there out of service, worship and altruistic motives. Instead, they were going out of greed, selfishness and evil desires. When you look at James chapter 1 verse 27 says that true religion is visiting orphans and widows in their distress and being unstained by the world. Again, they were doing the exact opposite. It is impossible to go to church or fellowship every week without truly worshipping God. Many people have the exact same problem today. Evangelists, pastors and missionaries get on TV, radio or in front of the church and beg for money. They offer products like prayer clothes, holy water and even prayer of blessings or any product you send them. Many years ago, the Catholics also sold papers saying that the person who bought it would have their sins forgiven. Scandal after scandal has broken out where these have been proved to be fake. Oh, the bad reputation of these evangelist money grabbers has tarnished the reputation of much of the church. However, this thought process has tinkled down to mass numbers of churchgoers. Most of these probably wouldn't admit to going to church for personal gain, but many do nonetheless. You can see it when people ask what they will get because they follow God. Will they be able to pass their coming exam or having a better job? One guy last week repeatedly asked me what physical benefits we could get from following God. To him, the spiritual side didn't count for much, if anything at all. So what kinds of reasons do people go to worship in Sundays? The first one is we are discussing social life. People go to church because that is where their friends are. Hey, churches have lots of nice people that go to them and it is easy to make friends there. There are lots of activities around the week to enjoy during one's free time. This includes trips to amusement parks, bowling, pizza parties, seafood meals, sports games, park parties, etc. Our church even went on a mission trip in Hyderabad. This is not to say that any of these things are wrong. One can fellowship in these kinds of settings and make an impact on others for Christ. However, it is all too easy to begin going for the fun, food or friends. Church is not meant to be a club to meet your friends. Are you going to church to worship God and grow or to be with your friends? Safe feeling. Second one is safe feeling. Many others go to church for the feeling of safety that it provides. It makes them feel they are doing well spiritually. Basically, they get their assurance of salvation from going to church rather than from faith in God. In this category can be included people who to church so that they won't feel guilty. Are you going to church because it makes you feel close to God? Third is warm feeling persons. I have invited lots of people to church with me for the first time. After they go to church, I often ask them what they thought and what they like about it. The most common answer is that they like it because it makes them feel warm. Even many non-Christians have given this answer. They feel comfortable and peaceful when they go to church. Many continue in this state going to church for years without ever reality knowing the gospel and what it means to truly worship God. Are you going to church because it makes you feel peaceful? The fourth one is pressure. Another category go to church because their parents or friends put pressure on them to go. They are the ones who go because they have to. Are you going to church because you have to? Parasiac. Another very common reason for going to church is that it has become an ingrained ritual. We go because we have always gone, or it's what we do on Sundays. In a way, this is good to set a habit. We should not choose not to go to church because we don't feel like it on a given Sunday. However, we need to be careful not to fall into the trap of letting church become an impersonal ritual. Are you going to church because that is what you do on Sundays? When you look at Psalms 24, verse 3 to 4, so what is the solution for us to avoid these church traps? There is no magic trick. We need to have the right attitude and motivation. If you have been going for the wrong reason, confess and ask God to give you the right motivation. When you go to church, focus on worshipping, focus on listening to the sermon and growing spiritually. You can try some new things to make church more fresh and personal. Pray on your own during the prayer times. Think deeply about the words of the songs. Make notes and applications about the sermon. Pray before and afterward that God will teach you in the day service. Discuss what you learned with others. Choose 1 or 2 points and practice them during the week. Most importantly, remember to go to church for the right reason and don't think about what you can get it out of it. Confess all selfish motivation. Go to worship, learn, grow and encourage others. Think about what you can give God and people, not what you can get. When you look at John chapter 4 verse 24. Also, if the church you go to is not a place where you can truly worship and grow, you should think about finding another church. Another angle to think about this issue from is, what if Jesus came to your church and see you there? Would he be happy with your reasons for going and your activities there? What practices and things might he cleanse from your church? Now we are going to discuss verse 15 to 16. Jesus saw the greedy and selfish business practice going on at what was supposed to be a center of worship. The world religion during the tribulation will also be tied closely with economy. He made a whip and then drove them out of the temple with it. He overturned the tables where people were exchanging money. Was not Jesus gentle? Was not he like a quiet sheep? What was it that set him off? Quite simply, he was angry. It is common for us to think that anger is not sin, but this is not so. There are two kinds of anger. The second kind, the sinful kind, is very common to us, so we naturally assume that all anger must be bad. This kind of anger stems from selfishness. Some does something to us that we deem is unfair, so we get angry. Someone gossips about us behind our back and we get angry. Somebody steals money, cheats us, lies to us, takes our seat on the subway, cuts in line, fouls us in sports, etc., and we get angry. In all of these cases, this is probably a sinful response. We are upset because someone did something to us. They violated our rights. This kind of anger is sin and we should avoid it. However, the first kind is a righteous or holy anger. The kind of anger is aroused because of injustice and sin. This is the kind of anger Jesus had. He was angry because people were sinning and violating the temple. When you look at Isaiah chapter 57 verse 16 to 17 and Ephesians chapter 4 verse 26. In Greek, this is actually a command to be angry. We are supposed to get angry when we see sin in the world. If we don't ever have this kind of anger, we have some problem. Probably we are too much like the world. Either we are agree with their sinful practices or the apathetic and indifferent. Do you ever experience righteous anger? Describe. If you haven't experienced this kind of righteous anger, you should take a deep look at your principles and see if they are biblically based. Study God's word and make deep and confirm convictions from it. We don't need to seek out opportunities to show this kind of anger to prove our spirituality. And we should be careful not to be frightful, thinking we are better or hateful. Yet we should be involved in the world and in people's lives and not just sit by and watch as others sin without any check. Also, it is much easier to have this anger against other people. Make sure that you are just as merciless against sin in your own life. Did the Jews take to heart Jesus' lesson? No. They were right back doing the same thing. As we can see, when Jesus visited the temple a long time later in Matthew chapter 21 verse 12 to 13, Jesus did the same thing then too. Now we are going to discuss verse 18 to 23. The Jews wanted a sign from Jesus. Basically, they wanted evidence or proof that Jesus was right and had the authority to do this. People are basically the same today. They want evidence. There is nothing inherently wrong with this. We should seek to know what we believe and to understand that it is reasonable. However, a blind person will never be able to see the evidence clearly. Faith is the most essential aspect. Jesus told them that sign would be his resurrection, but he used veiled language and they thought he was talking about the literal temple. As we study John, you will see that this routine caused misunderstanding of Jesus' message. The people were thinking physically all the time. They thought even the Messiah's kingdom would be physical. When Jesus taught them numerous spiritual truths, even his disciples didn't understand at the time. Let us not restrict ourselves to thinking only a physical plane. During this time, many people believed in him, as we will later, many turned away. Their belief was shallow and they were like the rocky soil. Nonetheless, there must have been some true converts who persevered. Also, if our beliefs is only based on a sign that we saw, there will come a time when that will be seriously tested, because we won't be seeing a sign. Now we are going to discuss verse 24 to 25. Jesus knew that humans were sinful and totally depraved. No one could possibly know better than him. He was coming to earth and giving his life for this very reason. No easy solution, enthusiastic response, or energetic feelings could change this fact. John's overall focus is on telling us who is Jesus. Here we see that Jesus is independent, not relying on any person, also more than anyone else. He knows the heart of man. Likewise, we should not put our trust in man or put our lives in their hands. Do not trust unbelievers easily or put yourself at their mercy. For example, working without a clear contract or no contract, all other examples. Instead, entrust yourself to God. He is the one who is control of everything and holds our soul in his hands. Be dependent on God, not on people. Now we are discussing the main points what we have discussed so far. The first point is evaluate your motivation for going to church and fellowship. Confess any selfish reasoning. Resolve to go for worship, growth, and the opportunity to encourage others. Be pure and holy in your worship. Make some specific changes that will help to focus on what is important. The second point is it is okay, even commanded, that we be angry. If you are never angry, it means that we are insensitive to sin. First we need to have the right convictions, and then when we get angry about sin, work to help solve the problem in the right manner. The third point is do not put and trust yourself to man. Man will fail every time. Sometimes they will cheat, mistreat, or lie to us purpose. Other times they will fail us simply because they are weak and sinful, not out of any maliceness in their hearts. Be dependent on God, not on people. What are the things we can learn from this passage? What are the applications we can apply in our lives? The first one is decide on a specific way to help you worship God and grow more at church. You will take notice on the sermon. And second one is do something about a specific sin or injustice that you see going on around you. It might be your colleagues cheating the company, other things to church for the wrong reason, or immorality in some life who is close to you, or look at your life and root out some sin in your own life. Don't be indifferent or complacent. The third one we can learn, examine your life and see if you are dependent on someone. If so, confess and take steps dependent on God instead of the person. I hope you can understand this Bible study. God bless you. Thank you.